We are holding now Sotah Daf Zayin Amud Aleph by the Mishnah Ketzad Oisin Oisalo. The second line of Zayin Amud Aleph. The Mishnah now is going to detail the procedure of how the woman drinks the Mayim Hamorim. Ketzad Oisalo. What does her husband do with her after she was? There was a Sotah, there was a Kinoi, there was a Sotah. What's the next step? So the Mishnah says, Meilicha the Beis Din Shabba'isa Mukim. He brings her to the Beis Din that is found at that location, where the Kinoi and the Sotah was done. And the Beis Din provides two Talmidei Chachamim to escort her to the Beis Din Agadol in Yerushalayim. Why is that? Shema Yovei Aleh B'derech. Maybe we're worried that the husband will have relations with the wife, B'derech, and we want to prevent that from happening because the erasing the Mayim Hamorim is a very serious matter. So therefore, he brings her to the Beis Din, and the Beis Din provides him with two Talmidei Chachamim to accompany him. Perhaps they're going to have relations on the way to the Beis HaMikdash, and which is a problem if the Mayim Hamorim will be erased. Rabbi Yehuda says, her husband is trusted with regard to her, so there's no need to bring Talmidei Chachamim to accompany him. Now, the Gemara says, the Gemara assumes that the reason why we have to bring two Talmidei Chachamim is to avoid the Isser against Yichud. So the Gemara says like this: today, v'iyu. The Mishnah says two Talmidei Chachamim, which means two additional men, and he hatlasa, which is three. So you need to have three people with this woman. So he says like this: shall we say that our Mishnah is a proof to Rav's Shita? The Amar of Yidam Rav, what did Rav say? Leishana ala be'ir. When they taught that it's permitted for a woman to be secluded with two men, they taught this only, the Gemara Kedushin says, only in regards to when it's a town, be'ir. Or on the way when traveling, ad ika shleisha, there's Isser Yichud unless you have three men with the woman. Why? So he says, Rav's Shita is, because Shema Yistarach le'echad mehem le'nekavav. Perhaps one of the men, if there's only two men, one of the men will need to go to the restroom to relieve himself. And then it will be found that one of them is going to be in seclusion with a woman who's forbidden to him. But if you have three people, three men, then even if one needs to go to relieve himself, go to the bathroom, there's no problem. So the Chayra, our Mishnah, which says that you need to bring two Talmidei Chachamim, which means in addition to the husband, must be the Shita Rav because it's Isser Yichud, and two will not be enough. You need to have three. So the Gemara says no, loy. That's not the reason why in our Mishnah you need to have two Talmidei Chachamim. As I can tell you, over here, the reason why you need two witnesses is so that there are two witnesses with regard to her that they could testify. That you have two kosher eidim that can testify in the event that the husband didn't have relations with her on the way to Beis HaMikdash. And you need to have two eidim to testify that this actually happened. And the reason is not to avoid the Isser of Yichud. So the Gemara says like this: the Mishnah taught us that the husband is with the two Talmidei Chachamim. So he says like this: Talmidei Chachamim in, it's mashma that Talmidei Chachamim, yes, only Talmidei Chachamim you sin, but Kol Ha'am B'lay. But if it would be other people, just regular people, then that would not work. So he says, let us say that our Mishnah is a proof. So this is support to another statement of Rav. This, when they taught that it's permitted for a woman to be secluded with two men, is only if the men are kosher men, which are morally fit. But with regards to the men who have no morals, I feel even if you have 10 men, then it's still going to be a problem. And where it adds, there was once an incident, 10 men carried out a woman on a bed, as if she were dead, and had all 10 of them had relations with her. So when the Mishnah says Tamid Chachamim, it's Dafka Tamid Chachamim that we say 2 Tamid Chachamim or 3 Tamid Chachamim. 2 Tamid Chachamim will there's no Isser of Yichud. In other words, but when it regards to men who are Prutzen, then even 10 men, we don't say this. So the Gemara says, "Loy, that's not. You can't bring her out." Hacha hainu time the yadi lasrei be. Here, in the case of Sotah, the reason why there's a requirement for two Tamid Chachamim is that they know how to properly warn him not to have relations with her. So the Chayra, based on this, the Mishnah does not support the opinion of Rav, who said by Prutzen, because the Mishnah is telling you need 2 Tamid Chachamim because they know how to warn. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, the Gemara now discusses Rabbi Yehuda's statement in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Baila b'choli, your husband is trusted with regards to her." Tanya, we learned that a brayso said Rabbi Yehuda says, "Baila nem mikal b'chemer." Her husband should be believed from makal b'chemer. Oman nida she because if nida. In regards to one who's nida who has a husband who has relations with a nida, his wife who's a nida. The halacha is they get kadis, so by the nem and Allah, and nevertheless the Torah trusts the husband to be with his wife when she's in the nida status. So Sotah she belav, so Sotah, which if they have relations, it's just over on a lav. Like Kol Sheki, for sure the Torah should trust this person. If neither we trust, so for sure Sotah we should trust. So the Rabbanan who argue on Rabbi Yehuda will tell you in his sentence, no, exactly what you said is the reason why by neither we trust, by Sotah we don't. Neither because since it's kadis chaminilei mehemen, the husband is going to be more stringent, and he's more trusted because he knows the chumrah is much greater, the isra is much greater. Sotah the lav, but in regards to Sotah, which is only a prohibition, lechamir lei v'lei mehemen, and v'lei mehemen, he's not stringent on this isra, and is therefore not trusted with her. So the Gemara asks about Yehuda mikal b'chemer ma'asila. You tell me Rabbi Yehuda derives this from a kal b'chemer, or Rabbi Yehuda mikrei ma'asila. Yehuda derives this that a woman is believed by herself from a pasuk. The Tanya we learned that a bride of Eve ishas ishtela kayin. Then shall the man bring the wife to the kayin, which teaches us minateda ishmevis ishtay minateda. The husband is allowed to bring the wife. The Chacham said, like the Mishnah said, we bring two Tamid Chachamim. Because maybe he will have relations with her, and you need to Tamid to warn her. This Rabbi says no. Her husband's belief from Makal V'chemer. Mani this should be called as Balanam Allah. So this should be allowed the culture again. So Amrullah the Chacham said like Amr's been nida. You can't say this for her because by nida she can use the heter. In regards to nida, there's a heter. The reason. And that's the reason, because at the end of the day, she will become a snida. You're going to say this in regards to Sotah, which there's no heter. And the proof to this, that people will readily commit these acts that are usher always, as the pasuk says, Mayim genuvim yimtaku v'gemer. Stolen waters are sweet. So there's a concern that the husband will engage in relations with the Sotah wife if not having Tamid Chacham. And by nida, he can hold himself in because he knows nida is only 7 days, etc. This is Mateda. The Brisa says now a third opinion. The husband brings his wife to the Beis Hamikdash, as it says, then shall the man bring his wife to the Kohen. The Brisa says explicitly that Rabbi derives this halacha from a pasuk, not from a kal v'chemer. So how could you say Rabbi doesn't kal v'chemer? He learns this out from Nida. The Chayra says clearly behavior ishas ishte from the kal v'chemer b'reish barchu. So the answer is Rabbi first said this from a kal v'chemer, and they refuted the kal v'chemer. Then he brought it from a pasuk. So the Gemara now says, 1 second, Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakam, Rabbi Yehuda is the same opinion as the Tanakam and the Brisa, who also cites a pasuk, them and Ateda, that the husband alone could bring his wife to the Kohen. So the Gemara says, the difference between them is, but the Chacham said that the Chacham provided with that the Beis Din provides the two to the Chacham. The first Tana holds that the Chacham required to tell me the Chacham to accompany the husband, or the holds that they do not. Next Mishnah, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. The Mishnah now details the next stage of the process. They would bring her up to Sanhedrin. That was in Yerushalayim. And the Dayanim would intimidate her, threaten her, in order that she should admit her sin. And they would threaten her like they would threaten witnesses who come and testify din in nefashis. Now, they told her, Biti, the Dayanim would say, Biti, wine causes people to act immorally, and this was a lot of foolishness and a lot of immaturity, bad neighbors, and they're basically trying to convince the woman that she should just admit to her guilt. And then the Dayanim say, act for the sake of his great name, so that Hashem's name, which is written in Kedusha, should not be erased on the water. Now, if the woman admits to having committing adultery, then they don't erase Hashem's name. Also, the Dayanim say in her presence things that are not worthy of being heard by her, her and her father's family. And basically, all these things in order to encourage her to sin. If she says that so she writes a receipt for her marriage contract. She writes a receipt that she has no claims on her ksuba with regards to the money due, as any woman who commits adultery forfeits the right to ksuba. And then you get divorced. Now, if she maintains her innocence and says, they bring her up to the eastern gate, which is at the opening of the gate of the Nikanor, because there, that's where they were mashka the setis. Also, they would purify the women there who had a baby. And also they would purify people who were mitzeda. Now it says, and the kohenim grabs hold of her clothing and pulls them. If the clothes are torn, they are torn. If the stitches come apart, they come apart. And he pulls the clothing until he reveals her heart, her chest. And he unbraids her hair. It says, if the heart was attractive, they would not reveal it. If she had nice hair, they would not unbraid it. If she was dressed in white garments, they would dress her in black garments. If she was wearing a golden adornment, turn over Daf Zayin Amud Beis, vekat leis, or chokers, or nose rings or finger rings, they would take it away. Why do they do this? All in order to make her unattractive. Then they would bring this Egyptian rope, and they would tie it above her breasts. Anyone who wants to watch the process, this whole ceremony, can come and watch, except for her slaves and her maidservants, who are not permitted to watch, because her heart, basically, she's very proud. And she's very proud in front of her avodim and shvachis, so she's not going to back down. And them being there might maintain her to maintain her innocence. All the women are permitted to watch, as it says that all the women may be taught not to do after her zlos. Okay, so now that was the whole detail of the mission, exactly what we did to this woman when she came to based in Agadli to Shalayim. We did all these things in order to tire her out, that she should admit. If not, then this is what they would do. Now the Gemara wants to know, from where do we know that the Sotah is brought to Sanhedrin Agadol? Amar B'chir Bar Gamda, Amar Rav Yosef, Yosef Rabbi Chanina, Asi Teda Teda, with having Zeh Shavar from Teda Teda. Ksivach, it says, V'as Le'akin is called Teda. It says over here, and the Kain does all the Teda. Ksivach, it says, Alpia Teda Shiurim. It says in regards to the Beis Din, Alpia Teda Shiurim, Malahalam B'Shem Mecha, just like over there, in regards to the case of the Alpia Teda Shiurim, it's talking about 71 judges, Afkan. So over here, we're talking about 71. Where was 71? Shem Mecha wasn't based on Agadol. The Mishnah teaches a Maimin Allah, and they would scare and threaten her in order that she should admit her sin. Why? In order that Hashem's name should not be erased. What do you mean? The Gemara now raises a theater from the following Brisa. Just like we intimidate her that she should not drink, we also intimidate her that she should drink. If you're so clear that Yitaka didn't do anything, then remain with your stance. Because the bitter waters is similar only to dry poison placed on the flesh. If there's a wound over there, then mechalchel v'yedid. So if there's a wound there, then the poison will penetrate and enter the bloodstream. If there's no makkah there in the male klum, then it won't affect anything. So a woman, like the Mishnah says, is warned. The Brisa says not to drink if she's guilty. But if she's not guilty, she's encouraged to drink. And our Mishnah doesn't say anything. Our Mishnah doesn't say that we encourage her to drink. The Mishnah says like kasha. The Mishnah is referred to a case before the Megillah was erased. At that point, the woman is warned only not to drink if she's guilty. Why? Because we don't want to erase Hashem's name in vain. The Brisa which says that to encourage her is after the Megillah was erased. Then she's warned that she's taka innocent, she should drink because if she now refuses to drink. Okay, the Mishnah says, and the Dayanim say in her presence things that are not worthy of being heard by her and her family, father's family, in order to encourage her to admit her sin. We say to her, Dvarnim of Haggadah. We say the different psukim. For example, that wise men told and did not hide from their fathers. This teaches us that even during the time of the Avis, there were people who admitted their sins even though they were ashamed. And the Gemara explains, Yehud admitted that he sinned with Tamar and he was not embarrassed. What did he get at the end? Nachal Chaya Ilam Abba. He inherited Chayim Ilam Abba. Reuben admitted that what he did to his father, he moved the beds. Then the Gemara says, what schar did he get? The Gemara says, you just said the schar. What did he get in this world for admitting? So he says, to them alone the land was given, and to no stranger passed amongst them. Yehuda was given with Malchus, and Reuben inherited the land Me'aver LaYarden. So the Gemara says like this: we find that Yehuda admitted with Tamar the Ksiv Yehuda many. It says Yehuda acknowledged them and said, "She's more righteous than me." Yehuda admitted that he was the one who made Tamar pregnant. Where do we know that? Reuven admitted. What does the pasuk mean? Let Reuven live and not die. And this is for Yehuda. So he says like this: all the years that the Yidden were in the desert, the bones of Yehuda, which the Yidden took out from Mitzrayim, along with the bones of his brothers, were rolling around in the coffin. Until Moshe asked Rachamim on Yehuda. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, who caused Reuven to admit? It says to Yehuda. It was Yehuda. So Reuven saw him confess for his sin, and he did the same. And what does Moshe say? And this is for Yehuda. As to say, it's this Yehuda's reward for serving as an example to one's sins. So Miyad, what happened? Shama Hashem called Yehuda. Hashem heard the voice of Yehuda, and all Evra l'shafa. His bones then entered into the sockets. Well, they have a Kamalei, the Meseches Sota, but they did not let the Malachim did not elevate him to the Meseches Sota. So what did he say? And bring him into his people. In other words, let him learn Torah. But he did not know how to go back and forth with the matters of Torah. So what did Moshe say? Yadav Rav Loi. His hands shall contend for him. In other words, he should have the ability to learn in Beis Medrash. However, he was still unable to draw conclusions from his discussions in accordance with halacha. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? You shall be a help against his should be a help for him against his adversaries. Okay, now the Gemara discusses. So I understand why Yehuda admitted publicly so that Tomer should not be burnt. But didn't, why did Reuven admit? Didn't Rav Sheshes say that somebody who specifies his sins in public is considered like brazen, as one who does so basically says he's not embarrassed of his actions. So the we know admitting is not a good thing. So why would Reuven admit publicly? So he says, in order that his brother should not be suspected of having committed this deed. So he wanted to tell Yaakov that I was the one who did it. The Mishnah says, if after the Dayanim warn her, she says, I am Tameh, then she writes a receipt to her ksuba. So where it says, Shamas Minei Kaisun Shaver, you can learn from here that even though it's a machlekes of Baba Basra, if a woman writes a shaver or not, writes a receipt that she receives the ksuba, from here you can learn that one writes a receipt to serve as proof that the chayv was paid, rather than just tearing up the ksuba. And we know, like we said, it's a machlekes in Baba Basra. So Abaye said, Tini mekaras. To change the gears in the Mishnah and say mekaras. You rip it up. It says clearly sheveres. You give a receipt. We're talking about a case that we do not write a marriage contract. Now, then the Mishnah said, the Gemara says, they would bring her up. Hasam kaima. She's already standing there in the Azara. The Gemara says, the maskina lei umachtina lakadei liyago. They would bring her up and bring her down repeatedly in order to basically make her tired. The Tanya Rishon ben Elazar Eimer based the Messinas Eidim Makom Makim says in regards to Eidim that the Bezdin would bring the witnesses who came to testify from one place to another place in order to confuse them so that they will trap their testimony. So the same thing over here, we bring her up and down and make her a little bit crazy in order that she should be fatigued and admit her guilt if she did something.